Well, welcome. My name is Cody Morehead, and I am the creative director of Serious Writer. And today, I am going to share with you 10 tips for branding yourself as a writer and how to do that, and 10 tips on branding for you writers out there who are struggling to figure out how to brand, why to brand, what's all this craziness about. And so today I want to break it down for you in what I believe are the 10 best tips for you as a starter. As a writer. And so today we're going to cover a lot of topics. So if you want to grab a notebook and a pen or a pencil, that way you can jot down some notes, or if you're watching this from your computer and you have another window open, make sure that you capture some of this so that you can remember it as you are branding and you're putting together a brand for yourself. Here at Serious Writer, we believe that branding is crucial to the development of any company or writer, and we believe the research would show it as well. So, without further ado, I'm gonna jump in. 10 tips for branding for writers. Tip number 1 is this: identify your brand. This can be really difficult, and this is the first step. Identify your brand. The reason that we say this is because we believe this, that serious writers, see what we did there, who want to succeed long term should include branding in their early stages. A strong brand helps authors in the same way that it helps large corporations. It establishes familiarity. See, here's the truth about branding. The reason it's so vital for writers, and even though it might seem like it's crazy, you have to identify a brand for yourself. I get questions all the time from all sorts of authors about how to establish a brand, about what to do for their brand, about why is it so important that I have a brand. The truth is, a brand establishes who you are and is an easy way for people to find you and become familiar with who you are and what you're all about. And so don't be scared to put together a brand and start to work on it. If you're looking for examples of brands, Apple is a brand. Nike is a brand. McDonald's is a brand. Taco Bell is a brand. You say, no, those are all companies. No, because when I said those words, what did you think of? You thought of each one of those companies' logos. You thought about what those companies do. You thought about how those companies produce what they produce. And guess what? That is a brand. Just like a person with a name, a brand has characteristics that go far beyond one word, one logo, one emblem. They imbue the identity of a person or a product or a company. And so a brand does just that. It imbues, it identifies people so that they are familiar with you. That's number 1. Number 2 is this: don't overwhelm yourself. This might seem weird that these are butted up against each other, 1 and 2, but the truth is that in branding, all too often, especially as writers, we can find ourselves in a position where we are overwhelmed. We're overwhelmed because we don't really know what to do. We're overwhelmed because of the fact that we don't know where to start. And branding can seem like this huge, daunting thing that we can't get past. It's like a mountain that we can't seem to climb. And so here's number 2 in a gist. Don't try to scale the mountain before you take on your first hike. Okay? Don't try and scale the mountain on your first hike. That's just plain and simple. I think a lot of times what can happen is we get excited about branding because we've got this idea, or we want a logo, or we want a website, or we want this, and we can miss sight of the fact that we have to be intentional about how we build things and how we scale what we're doing. And so don't try to scale the mountain on your first hike. Don't overwhelm yourself. We can get so stuck in, well, I can't do that, or I can't do that, or I can't do that. Don't overwhelm yourself. Take it one step at a time. Deep breaths as you work through and process what it is you're trying to do as a brand. Once again, a brand is the identity of what you are trying to do. All right? And so what will that brand communicate? Take it chunk by chunk. Take it piece by piece, and don't overwhelm yourself. And one of the ways that you can do that is number 3 right here. You can ask for help. See, sometimes I think what happens is that we get scared to ask for help Because when we're putting together a brand that's about us and we're putting it out there, what can often happen is we get we feel like we're very vulnerable, which is true. When you're putting yourself out there, there's always the risk of rejection, but don't let the risk of rejection keep you from asking help. I want to tell you this. I believe this to be true. I believe that there are a lot of brands out there that were not humble but prideful, and they didn't listen to the current culture, and they didn't listen to good feedback, okay? And when we brand ourselves, it's important to be humble, not prideful. There are so many brands out there that I can list. In fact, here's a list of brands that thought they knew everything about their current setup. And some of their CEOs, if you want to look on Google, you can go do this. You can look at all of these companies and what their CEOs said about the companies that came and overtook them. First of all, here's the list: Blockbuster, BlackBerry, Kodak, Pan Am, MySpace, and many more that closed their doors because they were not humble and they didn't ask the right questions of the people that they were serving. As writers, we are serving the reader, and we are serving the group and the demographic with which we are trying to write. And that's very important. And so we need to be very careful about the kind of questions we ask. We need to ask for help. We need to ask for feedback. We need to ask people to take a look at what we're doing and comb through it to make sure it is the best possible product that we could put out there. Number 4 is this: know what matters most. As a brand, as a person, as a writer, know what matters most to you in your writing. If you're writing fiction, know what's most important to you about writing fiction. Know what's most important about the story. Know what's most important about what you do. Why did you get into it in the first place? Know what matters most. When you know what matters most, you can identify where to begin. And so can your reader, and so can your customer. When you can identify what matters most, you can help people start the process of falling in love with what you're doing. Taco Bell knows that tacos matter most, and that people want a quick, tasty taco. And that's where they start. And from there, they branch out. Apple knows that what is the highest selling thing and what is the most important is that they have a slick, clean look, and that the iPhone is excellent. So that's what they focus on. When you know what matters most, you can identify where you need to begin. That can be difficult. That can be very difficult because sometimes as we're identifying what we're doing as an author, it can be like, well, I write children's, but I also write suspense thrillers, and I also blog a little bit, and so it can feel like do I need to get a brand for each one of those? The truth is you can, or you can boil them all down into why you started writing in the first place and put it out there for people so they can understand who you are and why you do what you do. A lot of authors and a lot of brands don't know what matters most. And for those, there are woes to those companies and those brands that don't know what matters most. Number 5 is this: make what matters matter most. Right? So we have number 4, which was know what matters most, and we have number 5, which is make what matters matter most. See, here's the deal. When we're building a brand, all sorts of things are important to us. I cannot tell you how many consultations I've had with authors who believe their passion supersedes having a succinct vision of what they're going to do. And the truth is, when they don't take the time to identify what matters most, and they don't take the time to make what matters matter most, they are losing clients, they are losing people. Companies and brands that don't know what their core values are have a rotating exit door of customers. And it's important for us to retain the people who we care about, the customer, which we care about. Every brand that cares most about their customer is still alive because they have asked the right questions and they have made what matters most matter most. It's true. If you cannot identify in your brand what matters most, if you cannot identify in your writing what matters most, you will find yourself not selling books and not getting the word out about what you're for. You have to establish your core values. You have to establish what you are doing that is important. Not only that, but identify what you are doing and why it is important to the reader and the customer. Why should they know what you're doing and why should they care? Make what matters matter most. Number 6, this is a big one. Understand your weaknesses and stop focusing on them. Understand your weaknesses and stop focusing on them. The truth of all of this is, if you think that you're going to work on all your weaknesses and you're going to fix them, toot sweet, I got news for you. You're not. You are definitely not. And the fact of all it is, your weaknesses will always be your weaknesses. You're not going to get any better than average with them. I'll give you a perfect example. I'm not a details person. I am terrible at admin. So I would never, ever, ever expect that I'm going to take on things that require me to do admin work, that require me to be part of the details. I am a big picture person. That is how my brain is set up, and that is my strong suit. And the truth is that people don't come to me because they want me to do detail work. They come to me because I'm a big picture person and I'm a huge personality. And that might sound super arrogant to somebody who's not comfortable in their personality. But the truth is, I know that there are incredible people who work with me that are amazing at admin, and I use them. If I were working on my own, I would never try to accomplish admin tasks because the truth is I'll never be good at them. Some of you are trying to put a square peg into a round hole, and you're finding out how difficult that is because your personality doesn't support being in that position. You have to know who you are. You have to know what your weaknesses are and identify them so that they don't kill you. But you also have to make sure that you don't focus too much on them. Getting caught up in what you're not good at is an uphill battle that you were never meant to win. Never. You were never, ever meant to win the uphill battle against your weaknesses. That's why they're your weaknesses. I believe that we are all created with strengths and gifts and also weaknesses. But people are never going to be attracted to your brand because of what it's not. I don't go to Payless Shoes to buy lumber. It's true. Because the truth of all of that is, I go to Payless Shoes to buy shoes. I don't go to a McDonald's because I want to get tacos. Why would I? It's almost like it's crazy to think that people spend so much time on their weaknesses when they just need to hone their strengths more and more and more. See, I think that some of us, as we brand and we market, before I move on to our next point, I think that some of us get so stuck worrying about our weaknesses and what we're not good at that we lose sight of what we are gifted at. As a writer, it can be really difficult to identify what writing style you're best at. I'll give you a perfect example. I am a pastor. I work in a church. And when I started out in ministry, all I wanted to do was be a senior pastor because I thought that was super cool. And I'd be this super well-respected senior pastor, and everybody would love me. And I'd be so great. What I realized really quickly is that I was not senior pastor material. But you know what I was really good at? Children's ministry. I was really good at youth ministry. And so I could have spent all my time focusing on what I wasn't and what I shouldn't have been doing, or I could listen to the people who were around me who told me I was amazing at children's ministry and I was amazing at youth ministry, and I needed to do those things. So I think what happens sometimes is that we miss out on what is in front of us because we're so focused on what we want to do instead of what we've been given gifts to do. Don't focus on your weaknesses. Focus on your strengths. Become best at your strengths. Understand your weaknesses so they don't kill you. But stop focusing on them and making them the focal point of your progress moving forward. Once again, people are never going to be attracted to your brand because of what it's not. Number 7. Be comfortable in who you are. Here's the truth of Branding 101. If there's one thing that you take away from all of this, it's this. Be comfortable in who you are, because guess what? If you're not comfortable in who you are and you're not comfortable with what you are putting out there as a brand, you won't put it out there with your full effort. Right? We don't put the things that we're insecure about out there because we lack confidence. Sometimes it's because of our weaknesses and because of what we focus on. And number 6, understanding your weaknesses. Sometimes we're so focused on our weaknesses that we miss the product that we're putting out there. And so be comfortable in who you are, because who you are is what you're branding around. You need to understand that you have a gift, that you are uniquely made, and that you can produce something special. But if you're so stuck in worrying about what it's not, and you're so stuck in your uncomfortability and your insecurity about putting it out there, you will never, ever succeed. And your writing will gather dust and will be deleted and will never see the light of day. Unless you're comfortable with who you are. Put your strengths at the forefront. Understanding your strengths and understanding who you can be and who you can become it's so vital. It is so vital to becoming the brand and the author that you need to be by putting your strengths at the forefront. You will never accomplish fully what you are trying to accomplish if you cannot be comfortable with who you are. That's just the truth. That is the truth in any aspect of life, but especially in writing, because it's something that's so personal and that's so close to us. But if we can't put it out there, then it's never gonna see the light of day. Think of all the painters and the artists and the writers that have come before you that had incredible insecurities about what they're putting out there, but they did it anyways, and they became historical works of art, these beautiful, incredible things that people now admire and look at with wonder and awe. Don't be insecure with what you're putting out there. Be comfortable in who you are. Know who you are and know the direction that you need to take. The next one, this is my favorite. Don't get lost in the sauce. This is going to take a little bit longer than our other sections, so hang in there. Don't get lost in the sauce means be aware of what's happening. Okay, be aware of what's happening in the world. I cannot begin to explain to you how many people I come across that are so completely against making progress and moving forward that they don't understand how much it's hurting them. If you cannot understand and you cannot be a student of now and you cannot understand what is happening in the world, your brand will die. Let me show you this list of companies again that we used to idolize. Blockbuster, BlackBerry, Kodak, Pan Am, MySpace. Don't get lost in the sauce. Those companies lost themselves and they lost the ability to see what was coming, but also to be understanding of what's happening right now. If your brand is put out there so that you can take care of people and that you can share love and kindness and information with the world, don't also spew hatred. Don't be tone deaf to what you're saying and how it affects other people. Don't be tone deaf to what your message is communicating without you meaning to. If you're not intentional, you will be destructive at best. And if you are not intentional about being a student of culture, you will be outdated and you will be lost in all of the mess. And you'll say, oh my goodness, Cody, that is terrifying. It should be. And I don't have a solution for you unless you're willing to put the work in to understand what's happening. The best ways to know where culture is going is to ask high school students, whether you like it or not. Even if they're not in your demographic, you need to be asking them questions about how they're taking in media. What are they doing to consume product, and what are their favorite brands? And then see how your brand is going to stack up to those other brands. Don't get stuck in the comparison trap. Don't get me wrong. Don't get stuck in the comparison trap of, well, wow, they're so much better than me and I'm so much less, or wow, I'm doing a great job and they're not doing so hot. The comparison trap either makes you feel superior or inferior, and neither one of those is helpful or productive. Don't get stuck in the comparison trap, but don't get lost in the sauce and be aloof to what is happening. Pay attention to shifting trends and invest in yourself. If you as an author, here's the truth. If you as an author have not signed up for at least one writers conference, then you're missing out. If you as an author haven't done any other study into marketing than one Facebook post that somebody posted 5 years ago, then you're doing yourself a disservice. You need to invest in yourself. Maybe buy a master class about marketing. Maybe look at what other companies are doing. Maybe see if you can't sit down with a marketing director or a branding director for a larger company and talk to them about what they did to get where they are. Go out on a limb. It never hurt anybody to be relevant. In fact, being relevant has never hurt a brand before, ever. Being relevant is important. It shows our customers and our people that we are willing to do what's necessary to find out what is current and what the trends are. If you can't communicate to your audience that you are paying attention to shifting trends, then they're not going to believe that you actually care about them. I've seen brands come and go that focus on what's hot for the minute and don't see the future. I've seen brands that come and go that are so focused on how things were done 5 years ago, they can't see how things are done now, and they're not paying attention to the market and the trends, and they die. And you might ask, oh my gosh, this is so overwhelming. Well, guess what? Don't overwhelm yourself, but do understand that you have to invest in yourself and your brand. Maybe that means you need to pay somebody to critique what you're doing. Maybe that means you need to pay somebody to do your website, to give you honest feedback. And maybe when it comes to your opinion of what you should do, instead of telling them what you should do, you should ask them what is current and what is modern. Maybe you need to have somebody do a branding critique for you that's a professional. These are all things that will be helpful to you in developing your brand and making it current and making it something that people desire to be a part of. See, a brand is just an identity. Is your identity going to scream outdated, or is it going to scream with it? Is it going to scream, that was so 5 years ago, or is it going to scream, this is the future? We have to continually strive to put ourselves in a position where we can sell to our customers what they need or what they perceive that they need. And branding allows us to do that. But if we don't pay attention to shifting trends and invest in our brand the right ways, then we are we're an open sea in a paddle boat with no paddles. We will go nowhere. Being relevant has never hurt any brand before. Don't get lost in the sauce. See, here's the truth. Hyper-focus on any one thing can be a lack of focus if we're not careful. See, we can be so stuck on, oh man, I got to grow my Instagram, I got to get better at Instagram. Oh man, Instagram, that we can neglect Facebook and Twitter and Snapchat and all the other things that we should be focusing on. So take it a piece at a time. Make sure that you don't get hyper-focused on one aspect of your brand over another. Make sure that you take a deep breath and that you move forward. These are all important. Don't get overwhelmed. So here, I'm going to recap before I move on to number 9. Number one is this. Identify your brand. Number 2 is this. Don't overwhelm yourself. Number 3 is this. Ask for help. Number 4 is this. Know what matters most. Number 5 is this. Make what matters matter most. Number 6 is this. Understand your weaknesses and stop focusing on them. Number 7 is this. Be comfortable in who you are. Number 8 is don't get lost in the sauce. And number 9, before we move on to our final point, number 9 is don't lose your soul. I can't tell you how many brands I have seen lose their soul and their identity chasing what is the flicker of an idea and the dream of something that they could have instead of what they actually have. Stick to what got you into writing in the first place, and you will be better off. Because guess what? If you're not content with who you are, you will find yourself on the other end of depression and despair, and you will feel like you are doing nothing but treading water in a stream going upstream. You need to stick to what got you into writing in the first place. If it was a second grade teacher that got you into writing in the first place, you should print out a picture of that teacher and stick it wherever you start writing as a reminder of why you do what you do. The heart and soul of every brand is the origin story, and that origin story matters because it will tell us where to go back to when we have lost our way. It is our true north, and if we cannot navigate to our true north, we will lose ourselves. Because lack of contentment breeds desperation, and desperation breeds bad decision making. If we're not careful, we'll lose our soul. Because we forget where we come from and what we're trying to accomplish. I never want to see any brand do this. I think the brands that do this are the ones that get so focused on chasing this and chasing that and chasing this and chasing that they forget the bottom line of all of it. And it is to stay rooted in what got you there in the first place. We all can think of people who we know of or who we've heard of who were small towns, small people, and then got fame or got money and their whole personalities changed. Don't lose the soul of what you're doing because it will always spur you on. The CEO of Nike started making products in a garage and is now a multi-billion-dollar industry leader. And when asked about his company, he said that he always remembers making those products in his garage. He'll never forget that. Do not forget where you came from. Stick to what got you into writing in the first place. It will always, always, always help you. And the last of this, stay positive. Stay positive. See, here's the deal. In any venture, in any endeavor, it can be hard. We're going to have ups and downs. There will be things that we have great success in, and then there will be times when we feel like we are plummeting without a parachute and that we are heading towards certain doom. But the truth is, there's always a silver lining, and we always have to stay positive. As writers, we get rejected all the time. We submit proposal after proposal. We put ourselves out there only to be rejected after rejection after rejection after rejection. And the truth of that is it's depressing. But if you can stay positive, you can keep your head up, if you can continue to whistle while you work, it can change everything for you. There is nothing that will kill a brand quicker than self-doubt. If you're not confident in what you're doing and you're not positive, you will end up killing what you're trying to do. I see this all the time in my professional and personal life. I see people who are so bent on the negativity that surrounds what they're doing, that they cannot see out of the forest, and they can't see the forest from the trees, and they end up killing what they're trying to start before they even start it. Over and over and over and over again. And they are doomed to failure because they are stuck in a place where they cannot move forward because of their negativity. I hope that you can stay positive, that you can stay humble. I hope that you can remember all these things as you're trying to craft your brand, and that as you take piece by piece and moment by moment and you craft them together to make something special. I hope that you can remember these things, that you would stay positive. Don't let the negatives that happen to you keep you from continuing to put out what you've created. Because what you've created matters to somebody other than you. And if you're not diligent in pursuing that, if you're not diligent in putting that out there as a brand, as an author, then you will not reap the rewards. So here in recap, I want to go through all 10 of these real quick. First is identify your brand. Second is don't overwhelm yourself. Third is ask for help. Fourth is know what matters most. Fifth is make what matters matter most. Sixth is understand your weaknesses and stop focusing on them. 7 is be comfortable in who you are. 8 is don't get lost in the sauce. 9 is don't lose your soul. And 10 is stay positive. These are my 10 tips on branding for writers. And I believe that you have a story to tell. And so give yourself a brand, work on your brand, focus on it, because that brand is the vehicle with which you will share that story with the world. People will view you through the lens of your brand, and how you invest in it and how you spend time in it as a person, as an individual, is going to matter. Because people, when they look at you as a writer who has a brand, they aren't looking at your books, they're looking at you. They're not looking at a company or a corporation, they're looking at you. And you might say, well, that's super difficult, Cody. I don't know. I don't even know where to start. Well, guess what? Start with the basics. Start in a place where you can ask yourself who you are and what you're trying to accomplish. Serious Writer, I talk about this all the time. It's the 3 pillars of any good brand. It's me, mission, and vision. Me is who am I? What am I trying to accomplish? The mission is this is what I'm all about. This is what I'm trying to accomplish in the abstract. And the vision is how I'm going to do it. And so if you can't identify the me, the mission, and the vision, you will not go anywhere with your brand. Now, if you can spend time crafting these things, staying positive, identifying your brand, focusing on the things you're good at, not the things you're bad at, if you can do those things, you will have success as a brand, as an author, and as somebody trying to sell books or get people to tune into your content. I really hope that these things help you as you move forward. I really hope that these things are things that you can take and will translate well into your writing life. If there's anything else, Serious Writer has a myriad of resources available on marketing, branding, and the like, and we are happy to give you the kind of content that helps you identify what the next steps are for your process, all the way from beginning writing, all the way to intermediate and advanced level stuff. We have the full mix, and we are happy to make it available to you because we believe that your story matters. And guess what? Tomorrow's big names start here at Serious Writer. We believe that you are those next big names. We believe that you have the potential to move forward and to change the industry from its core. But that starts here. Building a brand and putting yourself out there. Thanks so much for joining us, and tune in for more Serious Writer content.